Welcome to Houston Sports Talk with your host, Robert Land.
And welcome to our live Texans-Titans postgame show. And thanks for checking into the best Houston sports podcast, part of the National Bleav Network, presented by our friends over at FanDuel. Joining me to break this down, contributor Tom Chavarria, who co-hosts the Bullpen podcast, and Houston radio legend Jayson Braddock. Great to see Jayson. How about getting him for this one? And hey, you live YouTube viewers, you're part of the conversation as well. So hit us with questions and comments. Jayson, I'm going to start off with you. Was there real progress by the Texans today, or was this just the Titans stink?
I think it's a little bit of both. And let me say, hey to you and Thomas. Great to see both of you guys. Known both of you guys for several years now. So it's awesome. Appreciate the invite. To answer your question, Robert, yeah, I mean, I think you definitely have to take into account that outside of Jeffrey Simmons, the Titans don't have a pass rush. It's not a really good team. Offensively, they're struggling as well. That being said, there was actual growth from the Texans in every area. Special teams. Tommy Fairbairn did his kickoffs. I mean, I think you saw the beginning of the season. He hadn't fixed his kickoff for this new kickoff ritual or the changes they have in place to get into the landing zone. I thought he kicked some knuckleballs. The placement on it was good. It made it difficult on the kickoff returners. I think we saw a lot of growth from the rookies. And I think we've seen it's taken a couple weeks and maybe their hands been forced a little bit, but we're finally starting to see guys getting playing time that should have been getting playing time earlier in the season as well.
No question about it, Tom. And we also have to mention that the Texans with 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter today, that actually matched the 3 TDs they had going into this game.
It's wild. I don't know what the secret sauce was. Maybe it's Woody Marks. I mean, obviously, when he saw the ball more, the game, I felt like had a totally different feel to it. I even thought it made Chubb look better. So I really think how they address the running game going forward is going to be very critical.
All right. We want to hear from you guys. Keep us on our toes as this one goes along. We'll be responding to it, but we'll go through this possession by possession like I normally do, and we're going to hit some highlights as we go through it. First, Titans possession. Cam Ward slips out of a Will Anderson sack and burns Petrie with a chunk play inside the Texans 30. Then the Titans get away with one on what looked like a Danielle Hunter sack fumble on a busted flea flicker. The refs gave Ward credit for a forward pass. It was sort of 50-50, and I think whatever the call was, they were going to go with it. What did you think of that call? It looked at the very least like an intentional grounding. What do you think, Jayson?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, I think we all see that the same there. Should have been another sack for Danielle Hunter. You can't just push the ball out and say, oh, there's a guy within 10 yards there. No, you're in the graphs. You're going down. You're almost on the ground. You're not making a throwing motion. You just push the ball out and it for it to work. I don't blame the player. I don't blame Cam Ward. I mean, great for him to be able to get away with it, but for the officials, I mean, it's a horrible call.
The Texans, a huge break when Azeez gets away with a personal foul hit to Cam Ward's head on a third down pressure. And Tom, the Titans missed the field goal. And number one, I can't believe he didn't get flagged. Number two, Tom, Azeez needs to stop doing dumb things on the field. This has become a pattern with him.
Yeah, it looked really bad. There's no way around it. I'm normally pro Texan, like, hey, try to understand what the player was thinking, doing. I really just don't see. Obviously, this felt like a makeup call for me. Hey, we missed this one. We're going to miss that one because they replayed it a couple times. It to the head, hands to the head, to the helmet, that kind of thing. You just can't do it. There's no way around it.
Yeah, when guys out there say, oh, the Texans never catch a break. Well, that was a big break in this game for sure. Texans' first possession after passing the first few plays last week. They decide to go the other way on this one. They call 4 straight runs to start the game, including that 4th down QB sneak. The Texans catch another break here on a Stroud sack when Nico gets held downfield, but the drive killed with what looked like a ridiculous play call when they leave Jeffrey Simmons, of all people, unblocked, totally unblocked by the Garden Center. Jayson, the Texans settle for that field goal. I just was not a fan of whatever Caley was doing on that particular setup.
Yeah, I think there was probably a miscommunication. I went and did a little rewatch. I'll get into the all 22 tomorrow, but just on the rewatch, it looks like there's a miscommunication where most of the offensive line were going to the left. You saw the center go to the left. Ed Ingram goes immediately to the right off the snap. And I mean, you just leave a crease right down the middle for Jeffrey Simmons. Easiest sack of his career, probably the fastest sack of his career. So yeah, I think that was miscommunication. I think if you're going to take a positive away from this game, it's Flores. The 2 sacks that were given up, both of those sacks are things that need to be fixed. The other sack in this game was one that the exact same scenarios we saw with Devin Lloyd last week. So you could say, all right, well, it needs to be fixed, but it hasn't yet. So I think these are things that can be fixed. So more, and I think that's less troubling than if it's something as far as talent issue.
The Texans D with a nice 3 and out after that. Tommy Togiai, a couple of nice plays in that sequence. And Jason and Tom, I got to see more Tommy Togiai. Every time he's on the field, you notice him making plays. What's the deal? Can we get this guy a little action here?
Yeah, it was interesting. You go to social media after the game and everybody's like, how is this guy inactive the first 2 games of the season? Because the last 2 games of the season, dude's been making plays left and right. I know he's a journeyman. He's kind of been around a little bit. But clearly he's found a home with Houston. I think they got to play him a ton.
And Tom, it's a fun name to say too, right? I mean, it sounds like a mafia name. I'm big into the old 1920s, 1930 mafia movies and everything. Scarface, Al Capone, those type of nicknames. I mean, with the way he's playing, I think he's deserving of that mafia name, Tommy 4 Toes Togiai. And I'm sure he's got all 10 toes the way he plays. But I mean, I'm going to get it going. Tommy 4 Toes Togiai.
Hey, Jace, where does he rank on the defensive tackle list for the Texans? I mean, is he better than some of the guys that are ahead of him on the depth chart? I mean, where do you put him amongst all these guys?
Absolutely. I put out a couple plays. Again, I don't want to get too carried away for getting all 22, but 4 Toes Togiai. Sorry, guys. It's just fun to say. But I mean, seriously though, the effort, you just watch him play on each play. I put out a little video from the rewatch of him. Phil gets off the ball quick, great pursuit, stumbles a little bit as O-lineman lets him get by him to use his momentum against him. They throw a screen to Tony Pollard, and he hustles out all the way outside the numbers to make the tackle on Tony Pollard. We saw him have a batted pass on 4th and 1 that sealed the game. His effort, it's not just the way he's playing, but the effort just screams the Miko guy. I think him and Tim Settle, obviously Sheldon Rankins, what he does as a pass rusher, the effort he plays with, you got to put him in that top 3. But Sheldon Rankins, Tim Settle Jr. and Tommy Togiai, the guys that I like seeing out there. And we see Mario Edwards more like once this game gets out of hand and obvious pass rushing situations, then you're going to see Mario out there more.
Yeah, I got settled in my notes later for that pass deflection. I don't think it was Togiai, but man, there's more Togiai coming up. Trust me, there's more of him. Or Settle had one of the plays. We'll get to it.
Settle had one and Togiai. Yeah, both of them had a batted pass at the line.
Yeah, that's right. It was both guys. Yeah, I'll get to that because it's in my notes, but it's not in my brain right now where all that stuff happened. The Texans drive into the Titans territory, but Stroud overthrows Schultz, who's beaten his guy for what should have been a touchdown. So that was a missed opportunity. The one big missed opportunity I thought in the first half. He missed badly on a couple of plays on that drive, a couple of passes. Fairburn makes it 6-0. Texans shut down the next Titans drive. Danielle Hunter, 2 big plays, doesn't fall for a gadget play by staying with Cam Ward on a potential throw to him, and then sacks Ward on 3rd down. And Tom Hunter, he's got to be your defensive MVP of this one. 2 sacks. I think there's 2 tackles for loss and 3 quarterback hits.
I don't know if anybody's going to have a better line resume, whatever you want to call it, than Danielle Hunter. He got the game ball from the coach after the game. I can't say enough great things about Danielle Hunter since he's come in. Will Anderson has gone on record and just gushed about this dude, how much he's learned. And then he puts in his work on the other side. So Danielle Hunter is it's weird. You get guys on social media that say crazy things. When the guy for the Cowboys that just got traded, I'm bad with names, he came out. People were like, "Oh, can we trade Danielle Hunter for him?" I'm like, man, y'all need to stop. Like that guy's awesome. Leave Danielle Hunter alone. Just let him do his thing.
Yeah, Micah's making a little more money too. It wouldn't have worked really math-wise, but I mean, you have to be really happy, Jayson, with what Danielle did. But we also know the Titans' offensive line, it's got its own issues. It's not just the Texans that have some O-line issues these days.
No, I definitely think that's fair. And this is a young team, especially on that offensive side of the ball. You've got rookies playing key roles. Obviously, Cam Ward, Alec, and Alec Ayuman is basically the number one wide receiver already. And we saw that with the way the Texans played coverage. Early in the year, we've seen Derek Stingley Jr. kind of mirror guys like Devontae Adams, Mike Evans. And this game, they didn't have to respect Calvin Ridley as a number one wide receiver. So we saw Stingley play left cornerback. We saw Kaimi play right cornerback. And I think that as well with Stingley not being 100%, let him sit back there a little bit in zone, make plays when he needs to, but not have to mirror a true number one wide receivers like he had to do those first couple weeks of the season. And so also you got Gunnar Helm, the rookie tight end. I mean, you've got DK, the other fourth-round wide receiver they actually took before Ayuman at the start of the fourth round. It's a young offense. Injury, their first-round right tackle, J.C. Latham, is out right now, injured, so you have a backup in there playing. So, yeah, all the points you mentioned are valid. That being said, Danielle Hunter, not only his production, but his effort as well. Put another play out there with Danielle Hunter when Toa can't make the tackle. Stingley goes and try to punch for a ball on a pass to Tony Pollard. Kalen Bullock misses it. It's Danielle Hunter coming from the opposite hashes, 3 yards in the backfield, 25 yards downfield to make that tackle to save a bigger play than what it was. So, yeah, I see it just like both of you guys. I think I'll bring up excellent points. Danielle Hunter, production, effort, everything's there. What else do you want from this guy?
Yeah, I noticed the effort on that play. There's another play, too. I remember him running a guy down. I'm like, where did Danielle Hunter come from? 15 yards down the field again. So, Engineer and Brandon, we're going to get to you guys' stuff in just a bit, but thanks for joining us. Before we get to the next Texans possession, I want to help you listeners worried about your personal data. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. Data brokers make a profit off your data, and your data is a commodity. Anyone on the web can buy your private details. This can lead to identity theft, phishing attempts, and harassment. But now you can protect your privacy with Delete Me. As someone with an active online presence, privacy super important to me. I've had issues in the past, so I know the hassle. Have you been a victim of identity theft, harassment, doxing? If you haven't, you probably know somebody who has. Delete Me can help. Take control of your data. Keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. And we got a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/HIT and use promo code HIT at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go join deleteme.com/HIT and enter HIT at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/HIT, code HIT. All right, Texans next possession. They'll go 3 and out in that one. Stroud takes a massive shot to the midsection on first down when he when he waits so long that Cedric Gray gets a clean shot on a really delayed blitz. It didn't help matters, Jayson, that Ed Ingram nearly whiffed on his block. What did you see in that particular play? That was scary.
No, you nailed it. I mean, I'm glad you brought up the Ed Ingram miss because that's one thing that stood out this game. Offensive tackles wasn't an issue for the Texans this game. There were several miss or flubs, if you will, on the interior of the offensive line, whether it's Juice Scuzz, Jake Andrews, or Ed Ingram. But no, I think you nailed it there. The delayed blitz comes down and hit it. And I kind of want to go back to something you mentioned on that last play too, Robert, to get your thoughts and Tom's thought, because and watching it live, it just kind of puzzled me. You had mentioned, Robert, about Stroud taking that end zone shot to Schultz, and he also had Jayden Higgins went on that, and it kind of it's all hypothesis. I can't pretend to be in C.J. Stroud's brain there, but it looks like when he takes that look at Schultz and he sees Higgins there, to me, it almost seems, again, this is just me guessing here, that he got stuck in between which one he want to go to. Like maybe he was committed to Schultz and want to change it to Higgins or vice versa. When you just look at, I mean, it just looked off to be too much of an overthrow to Schultz that I think he got called up on being torn between the two options because both were great options for a touchdown there. How did y'all see it?
Yeah, I could see that, Tom, because it just looked like right after the play, Stroud's pointing to his head. He knew he had screwed up. And yeah, it was a little bit off. And both guys were frankly wide open. It was like, oh my God, we had two guys that were wide open and he missed both of them somehow.
Yeah, it's one of the rare opportunities. CJ had too many targets. Normally he's like, I got one guy I got to get this ball to. I'm forcing it there. And, I'm glad it didn't come back to bite him later on in the game or anything like that, because CJ will tell you 100 times out of 100, he's got to make that throw. That's a throw that he should complete every time, and they should be putting 6 on the board. So the fact that they didn't do it, you got fans that are getting restless. They're tired of kicking field goals. You got boos. He's trying to quiet them. He knows that he's got to get 7s on the board, and there was a clear shot where he's like, I got to make that play.
All right, Titans offense goes 3 and out next possession. So back to the Texans, who were still looking at this point for their second first half touchdown of the season. The Texans get their second 4th and 1 first down of the half, move into Titans territory. After Stroud takes a bad sack on a 2nd 11, he throws it a little too high for Nico on 3rd and long. The Texans are shut out of the end zone in the first half for the 3rd game this year, but the Texans get another break after the Titans drive into field goal range when Joey Slye misses his second 40-plus yard field goal of the half. Texans catching breaks in this one left and right. And Tom, you go back to the offense. D'Amico said this week the Texans needed to lean into more up-tempo for C.J. Stroud. Did you feel like they were going more up-tempo, specifically in the first half?
Absolutely. And I'm here for it. I think there's got to be times within the game where they have to go, okay, I've got a mismatch. I got to trust my quarterback to read this thing, go in there and get a play. The great ones do it. Tom Brady made a living at the end of halves just going, okay, I know you can't stop me. I'm not going to let you sub. I'm going to run this play, or I'm going to run 2 or 3 guys at you until somebody calls a timeout. And for me, I think CJ just feels more at home in an up-tempo style offense. You see him sometimes. We talked about it earlier. We talk about it a lot this season so far. Him holding onto the ball. I think he respects his check down more when it's up-tempo. He's like, okay, I'm just going to take this 5-6 instead of trying to make, explosives, as D'Amico likes to call them. And for me, I love seeing him check the ball down. He's got too much talent out there for him to sit there and go, I have to force the ball down the field. 2nd and 3 is going to be way better than 3rd and 13. And if CJ can lean into that further, if the offense can lean into that, Nick Caley can dial this stuff up, they're going to score more points.
Stroud said in the postgame exactly what you said, Tom. He started to go short more. He said, I have to do that to open things up longer. And then it worked later in the game. We're going to talk about that as this one rolls along. But he finally gets Nico downfield a little bit. Jayson, just out of curiosity, one of the things that I wanted to see was them spreading the field more. I just feel like the offensive line, there's enough pressure as it is. When you squeeze everything tight and you pull the defenders closer to the offensive line, it gets more complicated for CJ to read the blitz. It also gets more difficult for the Texans to figure out where pressure is coming from when you spread it out a little bit. I definitely think it helps CJ, and he looked more comfortable at Ohio State when he did that. What do you think?
No, all that's true. But I think Tom hit on something when we first started the show tonight, talking about getting that running game open, how it opened it up. I thought, like Tom said, Nick Chubb looked much better as a complementary back. And I think that's what the role should be going forward, 70-30 split, where Chubb's getting about 30%. You let them wear down defenses there in the second half. And as Tom mentioned, I think they play better to that. Now, Robert, back to your point of what they did, I think they came out at this game knowing they had to win, and maybe not just Stroud, but a lot of the players were playing a little bit tight early. I don't think any Texans fans would tell you at halftime at 6-0 when it's 6-0 and the Titans, have two missed field goals in this game, that they felt comfortable about the direction of this game. Now, by the time the fourth quarter rolls around and the way that fourth quarter goes, where they scored 20 points in that fourth quarter and haven't scored 20 points in any game this year, the whole vibe changed. And I think the Texans got a little bit more comfortable. They did things differently. But what they did earlier in this game that I really liked is that they brought Blake Fisher in as that sixth offensive lineman. And the execution was perfect. You got another blocker out there. Also, we've seen the Texans struggle with their tight ends blocking, Schultz, Bryant, struggle their way. Well, the guy they brought up, Brendan Bates, I think they signed him off a practice squad, if I'm not mistaken. This guy was all of his blocks. From everything that I noticed on rewatch, he was nailing all of his blocks. And so we saw him come in, kind of be an inline blocker for him, giving you another sixth person on the line that you can trust blocking. We saw Blake Fisher come in as a sixth offensive lineman to give you six blockers on that line. I think that really opened it up again with that running game and getting Woody Marks involved. And I know the coach and the team won't go back and ask these questions because the past is the past. But I think it's fair for the media. I think it's fair for the fans to question how many of those first three games, those one possession games that Nico keeps talking about, would you have won if you had put Woody Marks in earlier? And that's not hindsight. This is something myself and plenty of us have been saying. Woody Marks needs a bigger role. And too many times this year with the Texans, they're slow to just dip a toe in the water instead of diving right in. And it's cost them a couple of those first three games.
Yeah, it just seems like the Texans don't really have a good feel of who their best guys are. And that happens way too often. That's a scary thing for your franchise from the top down, that they just don't know who the guys are. Caserio sometimes gets them the right guys, but the staff sometimes doesn't figure it out. Nick Caley, just very slow to figure out who he needs to go to. And all of a sudden you start playing the rookies and guess what? They look good. Also, I see here one of the questions from Engineer is, do you think we can build on this, or is it a bit of an asterisk because of the Titans? A lot of good in the second half. What I will say that I hope they will build on is the Texans' only penalty in the first half was, I thought, a very questionable holding call on Titus. There was another one later in the game that I'm going to get to. But when you look at the penalties, there were not the pre-snap penalties. And that's the stuff that was killing them, the early drive killing penalties. The Titus one was early, but again, I thought it was questionable. So that's something you can potentially build on. Before we get to the second half, just a quick reminder, if you're not watching live, let me know what you think in the YouTube comments. I will still take a look and still reply to you guys, and look for our YouTube shorts if you need a quick break at work, and let your friends know about our live post game so we can get some fun feedback and back and forth in the comments. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube with notifications so you can get updates on the live shows and all our content. You also want to subscribe to us on your favorite podcast app. Texans get the ball to start the third. Couple big runs by Nick Chubb get the Texans to the Titans 34, but on 3rd and 1, they hurry up. And I thought for sure Stroud would just sneak it in that situation like he did on the 4th and 1 in the first half, but they run Woody Marks instead. And Jayson, not a fan of this call. The blocking scheme was way too finesse to try to just get 1 yard.
No, I think that's a fair point. At other points in the game, they were winning on this, winning on the blocking. I can't remember if it was that play or not. I know one, Dalton Schultz, blew up on a short yardage play that just really killed the play and got Woody Marks stuffed in the backfield. My recall's not what it used to be, so I'm not exactly sure if it was that play. Love the point you mentioned on Titus Howard's hole, Robert Land, because if you go back and you watch that play, I mean, it's a forearm shiver. I mean, Simmons has got his forearm in the throat of Titus Howard, so I don't know how you call one and don't call the other one there.
Yeah, and I'll just throw in Nathan's comment because he's a Titans fan, and he says, they are maybe the worst team I've seen in my life. So there you go, from straight up a Titans fan. Fairbairn does his best. Joey Slide does his best. Titans misses the field goal. The Texans D shuts down the Titans at midfield. So back to the Texans' anemic offense to this point in the game. After one penalty in the first half, Jake Andrews gets called for a borderline holding penalty. That looked borderline to me as well on a big Nick Chubb run into Titans territory. And then Harrison Bryant called for a pass interference on a screen. The next play, I didn't really see much of a replay, so it was hard to tell what happened with that. But Stroud throws a picture-perfect pass to Nico Collins. We talked about it earlier, finally opening something up. Really a screw-up, though, by the Titans on that 2nd and 33. A few plays later, Stroud gets his second first down on a 4th and 1 sneak. I'm glad they went back to it, thank goodness. A couple of plays later, Stroud to Woody Marks for an actual touchdown. Texans, a real, honest touchdown. And it only took 4 games, Tom, but the Texans finally figured out, this Woody Marks guy, he's actually pretty good.
Hold on. So I know we're talking a lot about all the young guys and they got to play him. To be fair, it is a rookie offensive coordinator. So I understand his willingness to want to lean on veteran play and not just go, okay, I'm going to throw these young guys to the fire right away. Now, we both talked about it 2 games ago where we thought Woody needed a bigger role. I'm glad that Woody's getting the bigger role. I think that we're going to see Higgins get a bigger role, and I think he needs to get one as well. And it sucks, they lost the first couple of games where you hope the defense would carry you through. And now you're kind of, okay, now we're going to lean into these young guys and we're seeing them perform. I feel like, yes, you can be upset with the brass and the coaching staff going, you should have did that to begin with in hindsight. But I understand the logic behind going, all right, I got these veteran guys. Let me use them to kind of get the ball rolling and then slowly integrate the young guys. And I get all the people that on social media and stuff like that going, nope, they should have been doing this from get-go. But I also understand the logic behind what they were doing.
I don't understand the logic as much, Jason, because they're trying to pass the ball to Dameon Pierce. The tape shows, the history shows he's not good at it. We saw it in the first game. He drops a wide open pass. We haven't seen Dameon Pierce be incredible as far as pass blocking. We knew that was Woody Marks' specialty going in. And I know it's not sexy to a lot of people, but Jason, you're a football guy. It's sexy to me to watch Woody Marks and pass blocking, not just this touchdown, but I love the pass blocking. That to me is like a girl in lingerie. It looks good. It's fun.
No, I think you're exactly right. I mean, we know Nick Chubb's not a great pass blocker. And then I've been saying for a couple of years, Dare Ogunbowale, something on the front office, obviously tongue in cheek, but I mean, this guy will not fall off this roster. And I mean, kudos to him, but he's a 3rd, 4th running back on a depth chart. That's his role. He's a special team stud. That should be his role. You trot him out there week 1 and he fumbles at the end of the game. And we can say, well, there's a lot of plays that goes into the loss. No, you're driving for a possible win against the Rams, and he fumbled, and he shouldn't have been in the game. Now, I'm fine with Woody Marks not being there week 1, but as he continues to show stuff week 2, definitely by week 3 should have been much more involved. Jayden Higgins, I don't have as much of a problem with the first couple weeks. First 2 weeks, you've got I know fans don't like to hear this. They want to see the big play, the catches, all that, and they don't care about blocking. Blocking matters. You can go back, I think it was week 1 against the Rams. His college teammate, now rookie teammate, Jalen Noel, had a screen pass. All the offensive line got out, created a wall, but Higgins at 6'4" got blew up by a DB and killed the complete play when Noel could have been eaten on that screen pass. Week 2, he still struggled, didn't show much effort. Beginning of last week, there was a play, he throws his shoulder, but then as the game went on, he showed more want to. This week, Jayden Higgins took a huge leap. Week over week, I mean, it's eye-popping seeing him go out there, lock up at the shoulder pads, get guys and block in. Then one play particularly, and these were back-to-back plays. The first one, he gets to that 3rd level and locks up a guy. But then the next play, he gets out on the edge. I had to triple-check this play to make sure this isn't a tight end. I mean, I think it's Arden Key, the pass rusher. He just locks up, makes a wall. Woody Marks gets outside, and Woody Marks made that big run, partly a huge reason why, based on Jayden Higgins' blocking ability. So now Jayden's showing the want to. He's not only showing the willingness, but the ability to. His snap count is going to drastically incline starting next week.
Yeah, I think I would have had less of a problem if Jayden Higgins wasn't playing as much, if you had a healthy Christian Kirk, Braxton Berrios. I think the thing was the Texans were terrible offensively the first 3 weeks, and you didn't feel like you saw a little bit more of some of those guys. I'd have to look at the snap counts on that. The Texans do go for two. Tom, what did you think of that play? Because man, they keep doing this like right near the goal line. I'm not a fan of rolling Stroud out and taking away half the field in those situations. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
I feel like getting Stroud out of the pocket when you know that we're having a hard time blocking for him is never a bad thing. I just think the play calling, the decision making has got to be a little bit better there. You see a lot of good quarterbacks do it. I mean, you see Lamar and Josh, these plays are designed to get them out into space and give them the option. Okay, if you want to run it, you can run it, which CJ has proven this season so far. He's more willing to run than he's ever been. And then if they're going to bite on that, all right, now I've got to pass to somebody. So while it's not necessarily looking crisp for the Texans so far because I think it's foreign, I think that's probably the way they should go moving forward.
What do you think, Jace?
One thing I want to point out on this, we saw it early in the game. Both of these might have been to Christian Kirk, not only on the 2-point try, but also early in the game. We see Stroud dirt a couple balls right there at their feet. And I'm not sure if this is too much Stroud really lacking accuracy on both of those passes, or we both see the defender quickly breaking on the receiver. Kirk, I Bleav, was the receiver on both of these. And so I don't know if it was just Stroud being extra conservative, not wanting to throw a pick that could be ran back for a 2-point conversion, which, I mean, at that point, I say go ahead and sling it in there, especially when we take into account the lead at that point. And early in the game, I definitely understand if he's saying, all right, well, this is going to be close. I'm going to just dirt it at his feet. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Stroud was just off on those passes, but we see how much he was dealing throughout the game. I kind of tend to Bleav that he was more cautious with the way the defender was breaking and how much that window would close by the time the ball arrived there. Not wanting to throw a pick six or not wanting to throw a 2-point conversion and back the other way.
Yeah, sometimes I just wish, and it seems like Stroud sometimes just doesn't do this enough. Just loft it instead of trying to fire it like real hard. Just loft it, because it definitely looked like Kirk had his guy behind him at that point. And if you loft it, it's going to be Christian Kirk will have a chance to fight for it. It's less likely when you're trying to fire it in there. That's when a guy just, he takes off and Kirk has no chance at getting it. And if you miss that, the guy's gone for two. So I do see the worry that he has. I think you just do a different type of pass in that situation. But we're going to look at the last couple of possessions. But first, do you have people to hire for your company? Because we know finding great candidates isn't easy. You get too many resumes, not enough candidates with the right skills or experience, but not with our friends at ZipRecruiter. They find amazing candidates for you and fast. And right now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. The future of hiring looks much brighter because ZipRecruiter's latest tools and features help speed up finding the right people for your roles, so you save valuable time. With their new advances, you can easily find and connect with qualified candidates in minutes. Do you see a candidate you're really interested in? You can unlock their contact info instantly. Ditch the other hiring sites. Let ZipRecruiter find what you're looking for, the needle in the haystack. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Use ZipRecruiter and save time hiring. Try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/audio. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/audio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire. All right, Titans football at this point. The Texans do something they haven't done enough of this season. Cam Ward's pass behind his receiver bounces off his hands and ricochets right to Derek Stingley. It's the third forced turnover in 4 games. There was chatter before the season that this defense could be elite. But Tom, elite defenses cause turnovers. Got to get more of those.
I agree. But I mean, elite defenses also hold teams to fewer points. And I would argue right now the Texans are doing a phenomenal job of that. So while they may not have the sexy sack and turnover numbers, that bottom line is holding teams out of the end zone, off the scoreboard. And I got to believe that they're going to be probably top 5, top 10 when the day's over, when the week's over, hanging that 0.
Texans take advantage of the turnovers. Big first down pass to Christian Kirk. And a couple plays later, Stroud hits Jayden Higgins in stride, his first NFL touchdown. Jason was just talking about Jayson Higgins, 24 yards on that touchdown. D'Amico said Stroud checked into it. And Jason, that's the kind of progress and growth you love to see from CJ.
No, great point, Robert. And it's not only that D'Amico said in his presser that Stroud checked into it, but also Stroud elaborated about it being something he noticed on film, knowing that their man Cody Barton likes to help out on that coverage on the number 1 wide receiver, which would be Nico. So that's what led him to check into it. So, I mean, I think there's a couple excellent points here. Everybody keeps saying, well, Stroud's supposed to have more demand at the line, and we want to see more of that demand. So I thought it was excellent Nico to point that out. I think Stroud, without saying, look at me, I thought he did an excellent job to go out there and say, this is what I saw. And just the fact that he recognized that from the film study shows that this has the football knowledge, which we all know, and the ability to do so, and now he has the freedom to do so as well. And good things happened when he made that call. And he even said that sometimes it'll work out, sometimes it won't. So let's continue to see this. Let's continue to see this against teams that aren't the Titans.
Yeah, big stuff. I mean, this is process. Process. We want to see something get better and move forward, and we want to see Stroud have more control of what's going on out there and show he can do that. So that's a big deal. Next drive, Texans D trying to put the nail in the coffin. Danielle Hunter, his second sack, and then the hero of heroes, Tommy Togiai, tips the pass on 4th and 1. Jason mentioned it earlier. Play that guy. Play him some more. Texans ball, and after Titus gets his second holding penalty, again, I didn't get a good view of that one, but it didn't look like this egregious holding penalty. Stroud finds Marks on a picture-perfect screen on 3rd and long. And then the MVP of this game, Woody Marks, finishes it, 18-yard touchdown run. You don't hear this said a ton, Tom, but how about the kick-out block by Dalton Schultz on that play? Did you see that?
I really appreciate you doing that. Because I guarantee you no one's going to remember that block next week. No one's going to remember it maybe tomorrow, because it's Dalton Schultz and blocking, and the two things don't go together. But the fact that you are giving him his flowers, I think is great.
I'm sorry to jump in here, but I love, Robert, what you talked about, that 3rd and 17. And this is what I'm talking about. Last week, screen passes to Nick Chubb. I think Chubb had 4 targets, 3 catches, 2 yards receiving. And these same screen passes, I'm like, I joked when I did film review last week, and I said, WWMD, what would Woody Marks do? And we found out exactly what Woody Marks would do. 3rd and 17, kudos to the O-line that got out front and blocked. They did a great job there. But the last 10 yards of that was Woody Marks being Woody freaking Marks. And, I mean, I think that's the frustrating part for me, that's saying, hey, a couple of these one-score games, maybe not week 1, maybe week 1. I mean, Dari fumbled on that last drive, but I'd say you get at least 1-2 more wins if they're so conservative with dipping their toes in on Woody Marks and other players as well.
I'm going to go back to what Engineer asked earlier, where he says, do you think we can build on this? And one thing I think is definitely looking better this year. This offensive line on screen passes looks light years better. And the receivers and tight ends, the blocking, the aggression, all of that stuff, Popovich has done a much better job. I don't know how much of that is Popovich or Caley, but blocking in general, in space, that's been a vast improvement. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I'll jump in real quick, Tom. Sorry if I stepped on your toes a little bit here, but yeah, for me, the show like Tom said, I think you did an excellent point bringing up what Schultz did on that Woody touchdown run there. Outside of that, though, Tom's also right with people, really dinging up Schultz because last week when I did film review last Monday, I just pointed out a couple of missed blocks by Schultz. I missed how he quit on plays. One in the end zone that could have been a touchdown. Stroud threw to him with anticipation. He quit wanting holding calls on both of them. He got it on one, didn't get it on the other one. But both times he quit on the play. Harrison Bryant's been atrocious, in blocking even in this game. Brendan Bates, that's why I mentioned that name. He came in, I want to say 5-6 plays that I saw of him that I paid attention. Just on the rewatch, not all 22 as it isn't out yet, that he stuck it. So I want to see Brendan Bates' role really take an arrow up, especially as far as an inline tight end blocker. Less so on Harrison Bryant. You don't need to have a 12 personnel grouping with Bryant and Schultz in there unless you're just in a passing situation where you want 2 tight ends on there. And with the Texans' depth of wide receivers, I don't know why you receiving tight ends. So if you're in 12 personnel, Bryant needs to be in the lineup going forward. Again, we talked about them going with Blake Fisher in this game is that 6 offensive linemen. Well, you got 6 O-line out there. I think they were really efficient when they did that. So the additions of Bates, the additions of Blake Fisher, again, is stuff you'd want to see early in the season, but I'm happy to see it here in week 4, showing the growth and still development. So I think that's great to see that this team, and going back to the question you had, Robert, from the listener, I think a lot of this is transferable because we're seeing them find out who they are. You wish they'd find out in the preseason who they were, but it's still the first quarter season, still a lot of season to go. I think the 7th best team, which is a playoff spot, is 2-2. They're 1 game ahead of you. So the Texans aren't out of this by a long shot. You've got the Ravens next week, and I'm sure we'll touch on that later. So I won't, tip the pitch there.
Yeah, well, you absolutely led me right into this because I've said every game this year, if you look at what our friends on FanDuel had, I've said bet the under, and you would be 4 for 4 after today. This is like a gimme. I just feel like how are they missing this every single time? The Texans can't score, and the Texans have a great defense, and they keep putting way too many points out there, especially against the Titans of all teams. And I'll be interested to see if they figure it out by next week. Keep an eye on that. But Jayson, you talked about it. The Texans actually were a 9.5-point underdog against the Ravens next weekend. But I don't even see it on the board right now with Lamar Jackson in question. They don't know what to do with Lamar, like questionable now. What do you think, Jayson? Is there a spread that would entice you to take the Texans next Sunday if there is no Lamar Jackson? Like, where could I get you if Lamar Jackson's not playing next week? Or do you think the Texans actually get favored?
Well, here's what I said. I mean, last week, you remember this time and going into Monday, and football fans, not just Texan fan, every base is like this. Monday after a loss, the season's over. Even if it's week 3 and you're 0-3, it's 17 games. You go 9-5, you got a chance. Even after you start 0-3, you go 9-5, you still got a chance at a wild card in the AFC South before this year. Yeah. Went in the division. So, and then by Tuesday, it
looks like we lost him for a bit, Tom. Yeah. Let me throw this at you, Tom, while hopefully he comes back to us. CJ Stroud, 22 for 28, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. How would you grade out CJ Stroud after today's game?
For me, I feel like this is probably where he's going to live, early on in his development with getting the keys to the castle. I think the days of people going, I need 350 and 3 scores, it's just too much. I think they want to run the ball more. So if you told me that this is what CJ Stroud is going to give you, I think it's a really good game. I think as long as he's protecting the football, you get 250 and 2. I think that is going to be a win more often than not. But to get back to what you asked me earlier, because I really want to touch on it with that screenplay, we were talking about the offensive line and the 2 guys that I really wanted to name because it was kind of a big deal because we like to bang on them a lot was Andrews, the center, who got torched earlier, and Ed Ingram, who got torched probably the whole season. Both of those guys had great blocks for Woody to get free. The other thing that I thought that was really great that for me in weeks past, in seasons past, that's a flag. They're halfway downfield. The discipline in those guys to hold their water, to get Woody the ball, then get out. It was just something we've not seen in seasons past. They're normally getting called for that illegal man downfield, and we're shaking our heads at the TV going, what are you doing? We didn't see that, and I thought that was super important. If you want to talk about building, if you can do that, I feel like this offense is going to go to another level because now you have to respect that play. For the longest time, the screenplay for the Texans in the last couple of years was really like a negative play. You know, it didn't matter if it was a wide receiver, a running back, or whatever. It was a negative play. So now having a guy that's dynamic like Woody, being able to change a game in one play like that, it's gonna open up the offense to another level that I think we haven't seen.
Yeah, it's not a couple of years. It's like go back to Arian Foster. Last time the screenplay for the Texans was actually worth a darn. Brandon asked this, Jason. He said he liked Ursery before the draft, was hoping they could give him a chance to develop instead of starting right away. I wanted to ask you, piggybacking on just that thought, Ursery, I didn't hear his name mentioned much today, and it felt like that's a good thing. I mean, what did you think of we talk about the rookies and, you know, Higgins and Woody Marks, and we can get all excited about those guys. What about Ursery?
I'll give you glass half full and glass half empty. All right. Let's start off week one. Texans did him disservice playing him at right tackle. It's not his natural position. He's a rookie. Treat him like you're treating a vet and Titus Howard, where you move him all around like that. If you're going to play him this year and you're going to start him early, start him at left tackle. That's his position. Don't move him from there. So I think they did him a disservice. He looked horrible week one. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He was out of position. He was playing over his feet. There was bending at the waist. There was no knee bend. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's farther off than I thought. Week two, moving back to left tackle, much better. And I was like, oh wow, this guy's ready to arrow up year one. Week three, the penalties, he got beat. I mean, yeah, he was going against talented pass rushers, but he's been doing that every week. This week, here's the sweet and sour of it. He looked good. You're not hearing his and Titus' names called for getting beat and all that. Now, the sour side of that is that coming into this game, Jeffrey Simmons had 1 sack and 6 quarterback hits. You know what the rest of the Titans had? 1 sack and 7 quarterback hits. That's the rest of the team. Just is on the inside. So they weren't tested this game. That being said, this is a rookie tackle going against NFL pass rushers. And like you said, his name wasn't. He's getting better every week. You got another game against Baltimore. They have injuries everywhere. I think they lost 5 key guys today. And this is with Nnamdi Madubuike already going to IR this week. So that's a winnable game for the Texans. And I said going into last week, beat the Titans. Don't this boo-hoo in. The season's over. You're 0-3. Just on the mild end, you go 9-5 of the last 14 games. You're 9-18. You got a chance at the wild card. The season's far from over. Beat the Titans, and I said last week, as crazy as it might sound, figure out a way to go into Baltimore and come out a win. Go into week 5, go back, get healthy, rest up, and self-evaluate. Find out where you're making your biggest mistakes, who's the guys that need to be playing more, who's the guys that need to be playing less. And I think that's more realistic. And, I mean, I hate to see guys get injured, but if we're talking about wins and losses, it matters. And they lost a lot of key players before this game. And in this game, they lost, as you mentioned, Robert, Lamar Jackson's dealing with a hamstring injury. We know how tricky hamstrings are. And so is he going to be able to play next week? If he does play, is he going to be 100%? And even if he is 100%, the Ravens aren't who we thought they were going into this season. I picked them to win the Super Bowl over the Packers in the preseason. And I feel really bad about that right now. I have zero level of comfort and glad I didn't wager on it because they don't look like the Ravens team I thought they would be on the defensive side. Offensive, they've still been explosive, but with a hand that definitely limits Lamar Jackson. I think this is a winnable game. To answer your question, Robert, if this line was still at 9.5, I would jump on it. But as you said, that's off the board now.
Yeah, Tom, I mean, if no Lamar Jackson, you got to also look at the other side of the ball. the Ravens defense stinks. The Chiefs were struggling offensively, and they threw up, what was it, 37 today or something like that? So, I mean, the Texans offense, if there's a chance for for them to start getting it together, Titans and now Ravens, this is another shot to really make something happen here.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with both of y'all. I really think that, if you watched any of that game, I know I saw some of the bonus coverage, and it just really looked like a team that was searching for it. Even before Lamar came out of the game, they looked very dysfunctional on offense. They talked heavily about Derrick Henry not being on the field. Now, everybody and their mother knows that if Lamar is not 100%, Derrick Henry's probably going to get the rock a ton, which is terrifying for Texans fans because there's PTSD from Derrick Henry for years and years and years. So I'm actually rooting for Lamar to play because I think if the hamstring is limiting him, it's going to be him as a runner. And if he's going to live in the pocket, then I love our chances. While I love the spot, I feel like the Texans absolutely have a great chance to win this game. Derrick Henry scares the hell out of me, flat out.
I got one last thing under the radar for you, Jayson. Juice Scruggs, more and more snaps. What do you think of what we're seeing from Juice Scruggs? Is he just a little bit of improvement over Laken Tomlinson, or are you seeing a huge improvement going from Tomlinson to him?
I'm going to be cautious on this because there are several plays on the rewatch. I want to go back and see the all 22 before I fully commit. I like Scruggs better what he did last week. This week when he stepped in, and I was fully on board. I'm like, well, man, Tomlinson, and mostly in pass protection more so than the run. He can still maul a little bit and open some running lanes. Speaking of Tomlinson, where I think Scruggs gives you more as a pass protector. But in this game, there's a couple, man, at least 3, 4, a handful of plays that Scruggs was beat. And I want to go back and see how many of that was Jeffrey Simmons, because I give you a little bit of grace if it's Jeffrey Simmons. This guy's playing phenomenal. I think he might be in a contract year. We know how millions of dollars can pay to. They said he came back in the best shape of his life. So again, I'll give you a little bit more grace on Jeffrey Simmons. So I do want to see that all 22, but I felt like he showed better last game than he did this game. And so I'm not ready to fully commit and say Drew Scruggs is going to be that guy that's shown leap and bounds growth, or say he's gotten to the point where Brandon Brooks was a guy that I loved coming out of college, loved what he developed into early in his career and what he turned into his whole career. I'm not ready to say that he's going to be that foundation piece like a Brandon Brooks was for the Houston Texans for years.
I also want to point out, Tom, this is something that kind of drives me nuts. Caserio, he hasn't put anything into the offensive line. And I don't know if we've talked about this before, but over the last few years, the Texans, I think it's either 4 or 5 years, the Texans have drafted 5 offensive linemen in the first or second round. Titus Howard, and this was I believe, Nick Caserio, Blake Fisher, Kenyon Green, Ursery, and of course, Juice Scruggs. All of those guys, except for Scruggs, I believe, were first or second round guys. I mean, they were not overdrafted, Tom. These are guys that all the people had on their board
and
in
Sharping.
the first or second round.
And Max Sharping,
yeah,
the same year with Titus.
Yeah, Sharping, again, this was before Caserio, but I'm talking about the 5 guys that we've seen a lot of in the last few years.
Oh, I got you.
So, yeah, to me, it's like, yeah, you're going to kill Caserio. Well, kill all the draft board guys too, because they got Blake Fisher and Kenyon Green wrong too. I mean, Ursery, it's still out on him. It's still out a little bit on Juice Scruggs. But right now, Fisher and Kenyon Green look like busts. But it wasn't like these are 6th-round guys that Caserio is like, you know what? I'm going to draft way ahead of it. I looked at Lance Zierlein's board, NFL.com, and he and everybody else that I saw had Kenyon Green in the first round. He and everybody else that I saw had Blake Fisher either 2nd or 3rd round, and the Texans picked him late 2nd. It wasn't like, he was a 5th-round guy, and Caserio's like, you know what? I love this guy, and my evaluation is just way better. So outside of Juice Scruggs, I mean, like, let's lay off Caserio just a little bit. It's sometimes guys just don't work out the way you think they're going to work out, the way everybody thought these guys were going to work out.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing about some of the guys that are, the keyboard warriors and stuff like that you see on social media. It's like if you fault a team for going out and going to get the best possible fix you can, well, I don't know what they're supposed to do. Like I when people want to go after Nick for the offensive line and not, committing financial dollars or draft capital, and I'm just like, well, they're drafting these guys where they're supposed to draft them and they're just not working out. I get that. Like, okay, let me spend my money on skill position, or let me spend my money on defense and then draft the line. And for me, I think Nick's doing the best he can with the stuff that's allotted to him. It's just one of those things where every sport, there's that one position that every Houston team has. They just never get right. For the Astros, it's first base. After Yuli, they just couldn't figure it out. Now you look at the Texans, it's just going to be the offensive line. And before the offensive line, I don't know if y'all, obviously y'all remember, y'all been doing this forever, legends. But, for the longest time, safety was a position that the Texans could not find. It didn't matter who it was, the safety was just bad. And I feel like right now, until one of these guys just sticks, the offensive line is going to be something that just gets worked over. And I commend Nick for bringing in as many bodies as he could. People are like, well, why do they have like 8 offensive linemen? It's like, look, you got to try all of these things to see if you can get this thing to work, because you're not going to go spend premium dollar on those guys. And if you were going to overpay for them.
Yeah, Marcus Coleman, by the way, I just want a little shout out to him. He was pretty good safety that the Texans had the last few decades. But, you're right. The safety is definitely been a position that they've had some issue with. Anything that we haven't hit on yet, Jayson, that you wanted to touch on this game, or just moving forward with the Texans? Any final thoughts?
I think we saw a lot more. I'll just try to 2-minute drill it here, try to run through a couple things and leave it with y'all to give y'all's takes on. EJ Speed won. Titans were in a lot more passing situations. Like seeing EJ Speed in there. We saw him play a lot more in the game because the Titans are basically in having to pass situations. That guy loops around the defensive end on a pass blitz like he's running a drill, like he's showing you how to do it. So love seeing EJ Speed. Expect us to continue to see him a lot more in those pass rushing situations that the Texans are up, other teams having to pass. You're going to see EJ Speed in there. Offense, I know y'all talked about Blake Fisher and stuff. I know a lot of people are writing them off. I wouldn't throw the baby out with the bathwater there. It catches on for different guys at different times. And I think Blake Fisher is a guy that can still come on and develop and become a good piece there. Hopefully, he's a guy that could become a bookend or Ursery there, that right tackle position in the future. Obviously, you got Titus Howard playing at a high level there currently. But I still think that's a guy that could develop into something. Outside of that, we talked about the tight end, Brendan Bates. I think we're going to see more reps from him as that inline blocker. I think we're going to see Jayden Higgins' role drastically increase next week. Because of not what he did catching the touchdown. We've known he could do that. What he did as a blocker and the growth week over week and from week 1 to week 4 is exponential, and showing that want to, willingness, and ability to do it. That's going to pop on films for the Texans. And that's the last thing I really want to point. I want to say kudos to the Texans, because the one thing that just really stood out to me in this game is that they did film studying like a mother this week. I'm telling you, their film study, they knew what the Titans were going to do before they did it. The discipline, you talked, Robert, I thought you did a great point pointing out the trick play where DK did motion to the backfield, looped back around on a run, and then Danielle Hunter didn't even bat an eye. He just stood there next to Cam Ward. Go ahead and throw it back to him. We know what you're going to do. You see that on film that they like to run that play. I'd also say Will Anderson Jr. in that Bucs games, they used his aggression and aggressiveness to get upfield, and they'd run at him and hit some big hitters with Bucky Irvin running at the void there. And last week, he was able to stay home on that. In this game against the RPO, I wondered how he would do with it. He showed great discipline, waiting for Ward to make his decision, and then would pursue. So their film study was phenomenal. The coaching was phenomenal. So yes, a lot of this is going to get shrugged off nationally as they did against the Titans. But I think a lot of this will carry over. And I think the Texans have the chance to beat the Ravens. Is it because there's a lot of injuries on the Ravens? Yeah, that's a big part of it, if I'm being honest with you. But I think it's also that the Texans are figuring out who the Texans are themselves.
Yeah, before I let you get your final thoughts in, Tom, it is worth noting, talking about Blake Fisher, Cam Robinson, healthy scratch. Blake Fisher was the tackle that they went with, and they used Blake Fisher, of course, like Jayson said, as that sixth guy on the line a couple of times. So that was kind of an interesting little piece of the puzzle today. Last thoughts for you.
I loved what I saw from the offense in the second half. Obviously, the touchdowns are huge, but just the growth I thought in some of the decisions by CJ Stroud, some of the discipline on the line, and then obviously we beat it up a lot. Woody Marks. This is something that you needed to figure these things out if this team was going to have a chance offensively to be able to compete in the AFC, because we know the defense is very capable. Like the defense is elite. I don't care about sacks and turnovers right now. I guarantee you by the end of the year, both of those numbers are going to be there. Like there's just too much talent on the defensive side of the ball. I think they're going to be great. And if they manage to get a win in Baltimore or against Baltimore, I think this whole thing changes, because a lot of people would have told you that if they were 2-3 going into the bye week, there was going to be a really good chance they could A, compete for the division, and B, definitely be in a position to make the playoffs. And right now, all of that's still on the table, even after an 0-3 start.
Also, it's worth noting, hey, the Colts had a little bit of trouble with the Rams defense too today. So, Rams, hey, you lost to a pretty good team. I think that's going to be reflected as the season goes along. You got to catch the Colts now. You got to catch the Jags because they're tied with 3-1 at this point, and you've already lost a game against the Jags. So got to take that into account. Jayson, hey, you're back on social media right now. Tell people about that.
Yeah, it's at Jayson Braddock, Jayson with a Y. Decided to open it back up this year when I started back writing for my good friend, Dr. Roto. First podcast I ever did was 15 years ago with Doc called Fantasy to Reality. He's the one that really brought me into the fantasy atmosphere about a decade and a half, 15 years ago. And so he would, I'd break down the X's and O's, and he'd give the fantasy spin on it. And so I'm covering the AFC South, the NFL, and giving fantasy takes there at Dr. Roto. Articles also showing up on the Big Lead and on the MSN page as well, and a couple other sites. But you can follow the content at Jayson Braddock. Again, Jayson with the Y. If you see it with not a lot of followers, I did start back over from scratch again. So not 20,000, but I'm about at 100. So we will rebuild it. Funny story. Met Kevin Costner years ago, and he told me this secret, guys, I'll let y'all in on. He said, if you build it, they will come.
At Third Coast Tom.
Yes, sir.
Remind people about the podcast, Tom, because I'm thinking of James Roy, your partner.
Yeah. If you're looking for my content, it's a podcast we got going called The Bullpen. It's me and my co-host James Roy. We do a post-game, a pre-game, and then a midweek thing. Just still talking a lot of Texans football. We'll definitely break this down again, see if we can piece it together a little bit better. Always looking for, all the angles, and just love talking Texans football.
Hey, let us know what you think. Tell me if you enjoyed Jayson. I'm going to try to finagle him to come back with us some more this year. Love having Jayson on. Love talking to him. Always good stuff with Tom as well. Thanks for joining us on the Houston Sports Talk live Texans postgame show presented by our friends at FanDuel. Keep an eye out for some more content as the week goes along. More Texans, Rockets, other stuff. We'll talk to you again soon.
You're listening to Houston Sports Talk.
Hey, don't forget to support us by subscribing and commenting on YouTube. You can always listen to us on Spotify, Apple, or your favorite podcast app. Tell your friends about us and share our show links on social media. Spread the word, everybody. Thanks for listening.